Good morning. This is Richard Hanneman from Hanneman Music, and today we are going to begin to work on this Wurlitzer spinet. Now, let's open it up, and we'll see what we have inside. To open this up, we lift the lid. Now we need to remove this desk. Removing the desk is a fairly simple proposition. On this case, different pianos will have the desk attached in different manners. But in this case, what we're looking at is there are two ears that go over two screws, and it just simply lifts off. So now, we just simply lift it off. Like that, and we'll move it off to the side. Now we can see the inside of our piano. And we're looking at a spinet, which, if you'll notice, the hammers seem to be almost level with the keys. And that's what's called a drop action. Okay, now that we have the piano open and we can access it, we need to do some quick diagnostics. Whenever I start a piano that I've never worked on before, I always do a quick diagnostics just to find out what all needs to be done with the piano. We can also see that the strings are okay. The hammers are in really good shape, so are the dampers. The piano generally is in good shape, with a few exceptions. First things that we notice is that there's a lot of detritus in there. Detritus and dust bunnies and that sort of thing. And that will have to be cleaned up. Also, here's something that's a little odd. If we look in here, see right here, it's been chewed. And if you look down in here, see that little ball down there? That ball of fluff? That's a big ball of fluff. Some small creature had decided that it might want to take up housekeeping here. When we go to regulate the piano, we'll go ahead, we'll be taking out all of the keys, and it gives us a chance to really clean out from underneath. So that's part of our diagnostics. The next thing we want to check is the tuning. This is a Korg OT120 tuner. A lot of piano tuners and technicians are using tuning machines these days, electronic tuning devices, ETDs. One of the more popular versions out there is something called TuneLab, which is digital, but it's on your laptop, so you have to be dragging the laptop around, and that's annoying. This is a lot easier, and it is just as accurate. We can turn that on, and we can set that up, and we're ready to check the tuning on this. Now, what we're looking for is how far off we are. Now, I just played an F. This is F3 that I'm playing. That's the name of the note. But this says that it's an E3. So this is a full half step flat. Also, if you listen to that, you hear kind of a wobble going on. Well, that's because we have two strings for this particular key. And the unison is not exact. If we look up here, here's the F4. Again, the unison is not exact, but look here, we've got three strings that we'll have to tune to have an exact unison. And the gadget is, and our Korg is saying that it's coming off as an E4. Okay? So obviously, we need to do what's called a pitch raise. And right now, we are a full half step flat. We need to pull up the strings to 440 by a full half step. And a half step pull is a very long pull on strings. So what we want to do is we're going to actually tune it to 442. Now, 442 will wind up being about 8 cents sharp. Cents, by the way, is short for percentage. So we're going to be 8% sharp. Then we're going to pound on the piano for a bit. We'll play the entire chromatic scale, all the keys up and down for maybe a week or so. Usually I would have a customer pound on it for about 2 weeks. And that will settle the strings. The strings will stretch. They'll slide on various bearing points. And they'll go a little flat. And that's what we want. We want those strings to stretch and settle down and come down to about where they're supposed to be, which would be around 440. Now, oftentimes, when you have that long of a pull, it'll go down to be about maybe 8 cents flat or so. As long as you're within 10 cents one way or the other, then retuning, or then you can do your fine tuning and expect it to stay pretty much where you left it for the next 6 months. Speaking of the next 6 months, normally the home family piano needs to be tuned every 6 months. And that's because over time, you'll have changes in climate and temperature and humidity that will make changes to the piano and to the tuning. As the soundboard begins to breathe, it moves the bridge, and as the bridge moves, it moves the strings a little bit. And so by the end of 6 months, you're somewhere between 5 to 10 cents flat. During a time of the year when the humidity is very low, you're going to wind up going flat. If the humidity is really high, you're going to wind up going a little sharp. But either way, you're going to be out of tune. And so we tune these things once every 6 months to get it nicely in tune and playing very nicely. And the better the piano is in tune, the more enjoyable it is to hear. And the more enjoyable it is to hear, the more enjoyable it is to play. And the more enjoyable it is to play, the more enjoyable it is to practice. One other thing that we'll be doing with this piano is a regulation. And in our next video, I'll show you how a spinet works and why we need to do a regulation on it. And then we can get into the process of the regulation itself. So thank you very much for joining me today. I'm going to tune the piano now later on today. And I will see you next time.